All right, good evening. Thank you so much for coming out. It's a beautiful evening. I really appreciate you taking the time out to come and learn, and hopefully you walk away with some more information on how to restore your body and feel your best at any point in time. Obviously, we're riding the wave of the spring cleanse, the spring detox. Historically, we would eat a lot of dried foods, salted foods, things that were easily stored through the winter, and whether we liked it or not, in the spring we started to cleanse because there was the fresh green shoots coming up, the bitter flavors. So I just had to mimic that and how to harness that in our own lives. So we're going to spring cleanse for renewed energy.
Yeah, it's our system.
So today we're going to go over an overview of the systems of elimination so you understand what your body does and how we can then enhance those functions a little bit more effectively. When, why, and how to cleanse. There's a lot of options out there and they're not one size fits all, so I want to help you tailor that and understand the best way for you. Tips for supporting digestive health, which I'll get into that. And tips to avoid excess weight gain through optimized digestive function and gentle detoxification. So to start out, we're just going to talk about the systems of elimination that are in our body. The primary systems, the ones that are their main focus, their prime directive in life is to cleanse our bodies, are the bowels, the liver, the lungs, the kidney, and the lymph. That's their main modus operandi. The liver and the lymph I've starred because those are the two organs that don't have a direct exit out of the body. So it's all a question of harmony and balance. They're relying on the other organs to be functioning well so that they can then have their effect. Secondary to that, we see the skin and the mucous membranes. Provided these ones are working well, we shouldn't see cleansing so much in the skin and the membranes, but it's a backup for the body. It can use it should the need arise. So starting with the bowels, a little busy still. An ideal scenario is 2 to 3 bowel movements a day. We want to think of our digestive tract as a tube. We've got food coming in, it squishes along with muscular contractions, it exits the other side. We take in our food, we're absorbing the nutrients from that, getting out of it what our body needs. It's a system into which we can then throw mixed metabolic wastes and toxins that we don't want, and they're carried out of the system. So having a bowel movement only once every couple of days, that's a lot of food matter that's sticking around and taking on a bit of a life of its own, creating toxins which are then absorbed instead. So we want to keep the bowels moving well. They should be comfortable. They should be time efficient. This is not a time for a novel, maybe a magazine article max. Stools resemble a banana in about size and shape and length. If ever you've been to a naturopath and you go to see one, be prepared to talk about your digestive function in the stools. We want to know all the details. It's a great indicator of what's happening inside the body. We learn a lot from them. They should be medium ground, half sink, half swim. If they sink too heavily, then that's not enough fiber, and that gives us a clue that we want to get more indigestible starches and fibers in the body. If they float, then it could be that you're not metabolizing your fats very well, and so they're a bit too buoyant. So we want to find out what's going on and how your body is dealing with that diet that you're taking in on a regular basis. If this ideal scenario is not happening, there's clues. It's giving us an idea that there's areas that we want to improve and that your body could use a little bit of help. So digestion, as I said, it's really serving as a barometer. It's telling me a lot of what's happening at various stages throughout the digestive tract, and therefore helps me target those treatments as to how to help you get maximum health and get the most out of your nutrients. So factors that affect bowel function. Maybe I just need to stay forward. I should know what this says. Your diet, fiber will obviously affect bowel function. The fiber, when we take it in, if it's insoluble, it starts to swell up. Soluble fiber as well. So if you look at psyllium husks and put them in a glass of water, eventually it becomes sort of thick and jelly-like. As those are starting to swell in our gut, it's forcing an outward pressure on the muscles, which then start to contract in response. So fiber is a great way of supporting bowel movements and keeping that bowel tone going. Fluids will affect it: fat, protein, starch, and sugar. Essentially, what you take into your system is going to affect what comes out of your system. We want to look at liver function. Our own best natural laxative is bile. So if we're having troubles with constipation, if things are slowing down, we want to look at supporting the liver so that it's producing bile and the bowel should respond accordingly. Stomach acid is also going to play a part. If we're not digesting our protein well, absorbing minerals well, Pancreatic enzymes help to digest fats, proteins, and carbohydrates as well. And then the villi. These are these sort of indentations that are all along the small intestines, and they increase the surface area of the small intestines. So we've got more capacity to absorb nutrients, and those can become blunted over time through poor diet, stress, some pharmaceuticals. If you want to look at how well you're getting your nutrients in. The biofilm. I'll be coming back to this a few times throughout this evening. Throughout all over the planet, we have this layer of life called the biofilm. Film because it's relatively thin compared to this hot magma core, sterile environment, and then the cosmic world, which we see as sterile as well, as far as we know. And it's this thin layer of life that surrounds it. That all begins with single-celled organisms. So we've got bacteria, mold spores, yeasts, various fungi. On the oceans, we see it as plankton. They're the single cells, but they're harnessing the sun's energy. They're using nutrients from the earth, and they're creating a place in which life can occur. That's the macrocosm. On a microcosmic level, we have our own biofilm. We are covered in a layer of bacteria, inside and out, and they're our first line of defense. They're our prime communication with the outside world. So we need to nurture and look after the bacteria that are on our system. We are all here approximately about 10 trillion cells of our own DNA. We have 100 trillion cells of bacteria living in and on us. So you are 10 times more bacteria than you are you. We need to have these bacteria. They're a good line of defense. They're supporting us. They're protecting us. We give them a nice, stable, comfortable environment. They give us security from the outside elements and other pathogens that might want to break us down. So we'll be coming back to that again. Other things that really affect the bowel are stress and emotions. We have more nerve endings in our digestive tract than we do in our brain. We make about 80% of our neurotransmitters in our digestive tract. They then get carried throughout the bloodstream up to our brain. So when I see any sort of mood imbalance or even a mental illness to a certain extent, we want to start looking at the digestive tract and healing that up and minimizing any sort of effects that could be coming from poor digestion, poor nutrient absorption, poor neurotransmitter intake. We also see the bowels from an emotional sense relating to letting go. So if I'm working with a patient on constipation, we're going to talk about fiber and probiotics and the liver and fluids and getting all that up, but I also want to work with them on an emotional level. What do you need to get rid of? What are you holding onto too tightly? And activity. We want to have a lot of exercise and movement and getting that lymph going so that our systems respond and move appropriately. The next organ to talk about would be the liver. This is the governor organ of the body. In Chinese medicine, this is the sort of the king of the body. It determines where the qi goes. It manages the flow of energy. Everything that we take into our mouth, fluids, medications, herbs, supplements, whatever that may be, everything goes to the liver first. It then gets to decide what it will allow into the bloodstream, what needs to be immediately detoxified and sent either out into the bowels or to the kidneys for detoxification. So the liver is governing everything that happens in your body right from the second it enters into your bloodstream. It detoxifies the blood, and it determines what is allowed to circulate in the blood. Is this a nutrient? Do we want to send this off to the brain or the heart or the lungs? Or is this waste and we're going to send it out of the body? It produces bile, which helps to emulsify fats, which we need for absorption. Fat and water, obviously, they don't blend. And when we take fats into our system, they're traveling in our bloodstream. It's up to the liver to produce those compounds that are going to carry the fat through our bloodstream or emulsify the fats in our digestive tract so we can metabolize them. From an emotional perspective, particularly with traditional Chinese medicine, the liver is associated with anger, irritability. It controls your ability to plan your life. It's that willpower. So again, from working with someone, I'm seeing sluggish liver patterns. As we start working on that, I want to talk to them about any anger or stuck emotions that might be holding back some of their liver function, but also warn them that as they start cleansing and moving things through the liver, they might notice a little bit of irritability and drink more water, have a nice cup of bitter tea, and will help that pass. Hello. Okay.
Do you answer questions or does it go along, or prefer to wait till later?
Let's answer questions as we go along.
What if you don't have a gallbladder?
Aha. Then we work with you on that. You're still producing bile, you're just not going to be The liver makes the bile a little bit at a time, kind of drips it into the gallbladder. The gallbladder stores it up. We take in a meal, particularly when we get that fatty sensation on the tongue, the gallbladder squeezes, and all of that bile comes out at once to deal with the meal. So we need to work with dietary changes when someone doesn't have a gallbladder, because they're not going to be able to do a whole lot of fat all at once. But I would work with them maybe using some bile salts or some herbs along the way. It's not, we just modify slightly. Work around it. It doesn't mean you don't have to cleanse.
Thank you.
Yeah. Lungs are another organ of detoxification. It's where another way in which we communicate with the outside world, and we exchange gases that we no longer need. So we're bringing in oxygen. We're aerobic beings. We need to have that oxygen content in our bloodstream. But it's also removing carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide it's a way of the body to eliminate acids. So we start exercising, we're breaking down sugar, we're producing lactic acid as a result. We breathe more heavily. Part of that is to get more oxygen. Part of that is a way of expelling carbon dioxide so we can keep the pH in our blood fairly steady. So we want to get good regular activity, move the lungs, and get oxygen transferring back and forth. Traditional Chinese medicine, these are associated with feelings of grief or loss. And we get that feeling that comes right into our chest. So people with recurring asthma, bronchitis, and usually talk about when did this start and what else is going on. We need to relieve some of that congestion in there. Kidneys. We have 2 of them. They're in the middle of our back. They're filtering. We have roughly 6 to 8 liters of blood, depending on our height and our size. But they're filtering all of that blood several times a day, 20 to 30 times a day. They work by pulling everything out of the bloodstream and then only letting back in what they think is important and necessary for life, rather than letting the blood go past and just trying to pull out toxins. So it's a very effective system. They pull everything out and only let back in blood cells, sugar, electrolytes, what else is needed. Some of the smallest blood vessels we find in our body are found in the kidneys. It's when we go down to the tiniest diameter. We also see tiny blood vessels in our eyes, tiny blood vessels in our nerves, but we get this really, really microfiltration throughout the kidneys so we can cleanse out our blood. From an emotional perspective, they're associated with fear. So we want to talk about, again, retention and what are we holding on to and what can we let go of as an assistance for helping the kidneys and allowing them to function effectively. Lymph, I don't think gets enough press. I don't think it gets enough hype in today's world. It's that other fluid other than blood. We have blood in our vessels, the heart is pumping it, we all know about that. But it kind of interchanges with lymph. Lymph is the fluid that surrounds all of our cells. It's in the extracellular matrix, so we have a muscle cell or a kidney cell or a liver cell or whatever it may be. And it's connected to the other cells of the body through this connective tissue that's bathed in a fluid. And if that fluid becomes murky and mucky, there's only so much health that cell can have. So a big part of cleansing is getting the lymph moving so that the cell can then get rid of its metabolites and exchange it with the clean, clear fluid that's surrounding it. So we have a system of lymphatic vessels running throughout our body, similar to the bloodstream. They have a number of functions. When we eat fat, it's the lymph that's collecting fat from our diet and delivering it to the liver. They're draining fluids from the body tissues back to the heart, so if we start seeing edema or swelling, we want to start moving that lymph a little bit more. They trap debris. As they're pulling fluid away from those cells, say that cell was damaged, I hit myself really hard and I'm bruised and some of those cells are now destroyed and they need to be replaced. It's the lymph that's going to carry that back and bring it back to the system for circulation. And as it does so, it'll pass through various nodes, which we've all felt swelling at some point or another in our life, and it traps this debris and stimulates the immune system. So it's kind of cleansing, it's kind of immune, it's got its finger in both camps, or foot in both camps rather. Houses many of our immune cells, and I think it's highly underrepresented. Skin, this is our largest organ of the body. It both absorbs. If you were to rub a slice of garlic on the bottom of your feet, it would be a matter of minutes before you tasted it on your breath and someone would be able to smell it on your breath. Our skin is highly absorptive. And obviously it also excretes. We perspire regularly. It's another way of throwing things out of our system that we don't want. But it's only a backup system. It's not one that the body relies on a regular basis. Really. I draw out the bucket analogy for patients a lot. When I do it, I have a little rain spout here. So I need you guys to imagine the rain spout because I couldn't find a picture of one with a rain spout. The primary systems of elimination, those are our bowels, liver, lungs, lymph, and kidneys, which we just spoke about. As we're born with a certain amount of stuff. We've got genetic inheritance. Some of us are born more sickly, some of us are born with stronger constitutions, but we have our buckets already filled to a certain extent. Then there's childhood illnesses, there's infections, there's exposure to our environment, there's various things, and over time that bucket starts to fill up. When we have any sort of blockage here, if those systems of elimination aren't functioning effectively, or if more stuff is coming into our bucket faster than we're able to deal with, we start seeing this level rise, and then when it starts overflowing the top, that's when we're seeing symptoms in those secondary systems of elimination. We start seeing symptoms coming out of the skin, so eczema, psoriasis, acne, boils, whatever, and with mucous membranes. So eye, ears, nose, throat, allergy symptoms, coughing, really thick ear discharges. The body's lost its way of getting things out, so it's going to the backup plan. It's using the other membranes. Genital urinary tract, we start getting some bizarre discharges throughout the body. So when we're looking at cleansing, we want to minimize what's coming in, and we want to maximize the effectiveness or the efficacy of the organs that are helping to drain that bucket. We need to keep in mind that we are inherently a self-cleansing organism. We have bowel movements, we urinate, we sweat, we breathe. We're constantly changing with the outside world. There's nothing static and stuck and still about our bodies. They're constantly dynamically changing, and we can harness that and work with it. When we talk about cleansing the body, which again was a traditional part of just the seasonal change. We came out of winter, this really closed, contracting yin time of year where we ate dried, salted, smoked, cured things that just sort of kept us going through. Spring came, we started getting a lot more light, we're eating more fresh sprouted vegetables. That was just naturally going to start moving the liver. That flavor of bitter was going to start moving bile, and naturally we would start to cleanse and detoxify. So when we talk about cleansing now in the modern world, where we have access to asparagus in the fall and strawberries in January, and it's kind of a dietary free-for-all, we do it with much more specific targets in mind, and with much more focus. So we can do it very gently. We can just do it with a diet. Cut out your processed foods, which really shouldn't be a major part of your diet anyway. We're going to talk a bit more about diet later. More bitters, more bitter herbs, bitter fruits, bitter flavors. No alcohol, no caffeine, no sugar. We can get rid of stuff, and our body will just appreciate that light and load and move along. But even then, there's times when we want to cleanse, and there's times when we need to rebuild. If we look at the fall, that was a time of packing on extra weight and calories and getting ready to survive that winter, which might have been long and drawn out. So there's times when we seasonally want to cleanse, and there's times when we want to release and let go. Same with day to night. That summer, winter, we have all of these yin-yang, these changes in our system, but all of the focus, all of the literature is on cleansing. We've got to strip away and break down toxins. And there's times when we want to cleanse, there's times when we need to rebuild and nourish and restore and keep that cycle going. Too often, I started in a health food store when I was 13 years old and spent most of my life in health food retail. It kind of got me on the path towards naturopathic medicine. And too often I find these patients or customers who are really pale and lethargic and weak, and they're like, well, maybe it's toxins, I think I should do a cleanse, and then they finish the cleanse and oh no, I feel worse, I've got even less energy, it's probably more toxins, and then they go on another cleanse, and they go down that sort of this vicious spiral. And there's times to cleanse and there's times to rebuild. I think I've stressed that enough. But I'm going to talk about it some more. When we're looking at a balance in the body, again, I come back to traditional Chinese medicine a lot, that perfect state of health is the balance between yin and yang. The old traditional Chinese medical doctors, their job was not to treat illness. Their job was to keep the emperor from getting sick in the first place. So they were always looking at that balance between yin and yang and trying to see when is the system starting to go out of balance and how can we restore it before we actually get full-blown symptoms and illness and problems. So we want to see this balance. So I'm extrapolating this and saying we want to have a balance between cleansing and rebuilding as well. We want to keep this hover nice and steady. And to treat the person, not the symptoms. This might be a little overwhelming. The red is yang, which is fire and activity and motion and daytime and summer and heat and power. And I'm going to stop moving my left arm. And then the blue is yin, which is cool and feminine and calm and cleansing and nighttime. And we've got these opposite ends of the spectrum. If a patient comes in and they're presenting with signs of heat, they're having headaches, they've got dry eyes, ringing in the ears, they feel hot, they're craving cool liquids. It might be that they have too much yang relative to their yin, in which case my treatment principle is to reduce their yang and bring them back into that state of balance. If, however, they're showing signs of heat because they don't have enough yin, if they're depleted, and I follow that same treatment principle and drop that down, they're going to feel awful, and I'm encouraging, sending them on their way out the door. What I need to do then is to tonify the yin, bring it up, nourish it, and bring them back into balance. So it's looking at that individual and not just going, oh, you've got signs of heat, we need to treat that. Oh, you've got some lethargy and a cloudy head, it's probably toxins, we need to treat that. We want to find that balance between the two. So sometimes the organs of elimination benefit from a strong detox. Certainly they're, your high-powered executives, fueled on coffee, swallowing down fast food, sugar, go, go, go. They're constipated, they're angry, they would do really well with a nice, good, strong laxative, get things moving, encourage sympathetic system. But for the average person who's feeling pretty good and their bowels are moving well and they just want a little bit of a boost or a little bit of a nudge because it's the season, or they just want to get themselves, it's post-Christmas and they want to restore themselves, that might be too aggressive for them. And for, again, people who are very weak and on the sicklier side, that would be far too aggressive. So it's knowing who that individual is and how to treat appropriately. So the last thing I want to do is use strong detoxification and weaken that organism or that person. A safer way is to just nourish those systems of elimination and allow them to work more effectively. So heal the liver and restore it and allow it to do its job well. Heal the kidneys, support the lymphatic movement, support the bowels, keep everything moving well. Ongoing system cleansing can be enhanced through nourishing. I talked about that. So a key component to supporting ongoing detoxification is digestive health. This is our sort of main plumbing. We bring in nutrients, we release toxins, we want to keep that open and steady and functioning well. And one thing that we learned, we being the scientific community over years, is that oftentimes the body will produce fat not as a response to excess calories and lack of activity. In fact, that correlation is rather often difficult to prove. What we'll see is that when someone is becoming more toxic, they'll start to hold on to more fats. It's a way of the body buffering it and protecting it. The liver's overwhelmed, it can't get this out of the system. Where do I put it so it's not going to go through and cause damage and lead to illness? So it just sort of buffers it away and puts it in a nice safe padding. So we know that as we start cleansing, it's easier for the body to let go of excess weight. So, the first product to talk about is the Botanica Restorative Cleansing Kit. Again, the restorative is the key component here. We want to just heal up the systems of elimination. All of the herbs were chosen based on their tonifying effects. They're helping to heal up the body. It's a 2-week program. It's all liquid. Rochelle was showing, oh, thank you. I got Nana. This is the Restorative Cleansing Kit. So it's a 2-week program. You've got 2 tinctures in that first week and 2 tinctures in the second week. Morning and evening. Obviously, you're going to get better effects if you do change your diet and do some other things, which we'll talk about at the end. But it's designed to be something that someone can do and still go to work, still raise their children, still function as a human being and not be glued to the toilet, not have a headache, not feel awful. So it's 2 compounds in that first week. The Gentle Lax. Hi there.
I was just going to ask you while I think about it. Is there any reason why people are on different kinds of medications that they can't use this?
The question is if there's interactions between medications and these herbs. Probably, I would want to look at that specific person's medications and look at the herbs and look for interactions. So the first compound is the Gentle Lax. This is a bowel-enhancing herbal formula that is not a strong laxative. So it doesn't have anything that's going to cause the bowels to move if the bowels don't need to. We've had feedback from people, their bowels already move 2-3 times a day. This just helped them work better, but they were still able to function and felt fine. So the whole purpose is it's very mild, it's non-habit forming. When we're talking about alterative herbs, with my light on. The alterative herbs, these are herbs that generally work through a bitter reflex. We have that bitter flavor on the tongue. It stimulates the digestive tract to move and it just works more effectively, as opposed to the laxatives that go in and kind of tickle and irritate the tissue and cause it to contract and spastically release its contents. So there are some laxatives that will cause bowel movements, even in those who already have diarrhea. So we want to keep it nice and gentle, let the body work well. Hello.
Does this mean you have to change your diet?
No. If I understood the question correctly, do you need to change your diet and increase or decrease? You don't need to stop flaxseed. If anything, that would be a great addition. You want to get those fibers, get that the mucilage. It's a really soft, soothing fiber compound found in flax. You're getting all the omega-3 fatty acids, it's anti-inflammatory. You know, I'd stay on that, or even add it if it's not something that you normally use. So we're supporting proper bowel tone without debilitating cathartic action. Cathartics are those really strong herbs that force things to move. The lymphatic support compound, as I talked again before, the lymph, that's the fluid that's surrounding all of our cells. We want to keep that draining, keep it fresh, keep it clean, so it doesn't thicken up and become sludgy. See a lot of stagnation and lymph starting to build up when we see glandular swelling or other deposits throughout the body. So it's not only is it going to help move the lymph and stimulate and drain the tissues for enhanced cleansing, it's also going to support immune function through that dual action of the lymph fluid. So we're increasing the elimination of mobilized toxins. So good first week. You can eat your regular diet if you so choose. You'll get better effects if you cut out some of the main irritants, which we'll talk about later. The second week of the cleanse, you're supporting the liver. So the bowels are now open, the lymph is starting to flow. We're going to get the liver moving, secreting its own bile to encourage that bowel function. And the herbs in there help to protect the liver. As more toxins are mobilizing and moving through, the liver becomes susceptible to more damage. There's more toxins that could irritate it. So some of the herbs in there are designed to protect those liver cells so that as the toxins pass through, they're not injured in the process. And then the clear skin compound. Generally, if someone comes in and their chief complaint is that they've got a skin condition, the last thing that I want to do is treat their skin. I'm looking at the bowels, the liver, the kidneys, sort of cleaning up the closets before we get to that prime importance. Because if we think of that bucket analogy again, if it's all full of dead leaves and sludge and debris, and we're starting to see those symptoms right at the top, put it in and start stirring things up, those symptoms are very likely to get worse first. So generally with skin conditions, we start gently in the background. That being said, with this formula, all of the herbs in there have a traditional use for skin, but they're also working on another organ of elimination. So there's a herb that supports skin and the bowel, another one supports skin and liver, skin and kidney, skin and lymph. So we're getting a well-rounded formula that's still working just on the systems of elimination. It's rich in minerals, so it's helping to heal up the tissue as it goes. So cleansing foods, which you can do on your own with herbs. You can, layer these as needed and as fits your lifestyle. Let vegetables dominate the plate. You're going to get, you need to get more nutrients from your diet. You're getting a lot of fiber, a lot of minerals. Vegetables have everything that we need, pretty much. They have amino acids, so you're going to get some protein building compounds in there. There's small amounts of fat, particularly if you're looking at ones with seeds. Avoid gluten-containing grains. That's just sort of dating back to our Paleolithic ancestry when we had predominantly vegetables and protein. It wasn't until we settled down into agricultural societies that we started to cultivate grains and eat them. And just more and more people are showing resistance to grains. So we can see full-blown celiacs. The Celiac Association just in the last few months came up with a few more classifications where we've got full celiacs. They don't have the enzyme, they cannot break down gluten. Those who are gluten sensitive, those who are wheat sensitive. So we're understanding more and more now that for some people it's just too big a burden. So just let it go. It's just for a few weeks. Just going to give it a try. Avoid milled grains and flours. So if you are going to stick with quinoa and amaranth and rice and millet, then try not to get them in flour form. Get them in that whole grain, all the nutrients, all the germ, all the bran, everything that belongs to it. Avoid dairy. Again, this is generally part of the shift to an agricultural society. We ate very little animal milk in our Paleolithic ancestry. It wasn't until we settled down and started milking animals, so letting that go. The two main allergens that I see when I'm working with patients are gluten and dairy. So just let it go, lighten up the system, minimize what's coming into the bucket. No alcohol, no refined or processed foods. No caffeine would be a good one too. However, if someone is drinking several cups of coffee a day and then they come off of it cold turkey, they're going to feel awful. And if this is a cleanse that we need to do while we're living life and carrying on, then I'd say maybe 1 cup of organic coffee a day. If you can do without, even better. If you can do green tea, even better. I also haven't put meat up here because that's another sort of individual one. If you are going to do meats, grass-fed, organic, if you can let it go for a couple of weeks, just lighten up the system, that's good too. But that's where there's sort of play and individuality. These ones, they kind of fit for everyone. Additional support, deep belly breathing. Too often we're stressed and we breathe into our chest, which is a much quieter way of breathing. It was a good way of hiding from bears and predators. when we are relaxed, we want to breathe deeply into our belly, which I'm not going to do now because it's microphone. And that helps to move lymph throughout the system. It's kind of massaging the internal organs, getting more blood flow. So that's a nice addition. Meditation, yoga, all of these times to reflect and let go. Lots of clean fluids. So water, herbal tea. You can avoid the coffee, that would be great. No alcohol. Regular activity and movement, keep the lymph going. Plant-based diet with quality protein. Castor oil packs. Are anyone familiar with these? Couple. Castor oil is a unique oil. It can penetrate about 10 centimeters into tissue, and as it penetrates, it increases circulation, so we get more oxygen and more nutrients carried to the area, more waste being carried away. I'll just do a shameless plug here. I've got information on my website on how to do a castor oil pack. Skin brushing. Hello? No, thank you. Castor oil is a very strong laxative. When we're talking about those purgative herbs that are just going to be very strong in the system, castor oil is one of those powerful ones. They used to give it to women before childbirth as ways of evacuating their system, so I don't recommend it for internal use. And if someone is that constipated, I'm finding other herbs. Internal. Way too harsh. Yeah. Skin brushing, you can get some stiff bristled brushes and move the lymph towards the heart. Start at the feet, move up the legs, fingertips towards the heart, abdomen back. Another good way of stimulating lymphatic flow and moving toxins throughout the body. Saunas, infrared saunas, the list goes on. There's a lot of other things we can do to help support our health when we're cleansing and in those day-to-day life when we just want to maintain our good, clean body. And some self-reflection. Are there negative patterns, old hurts, poor habits? You know, if we're letting go physically, what else can we do on the emotional level to help restore that balance and keep strong? Maintaining a clean system, this really depends very much on your diet and your lifestyle. The restorative cleanse can be used a couple times a year. You could do 2 kits back to back if you've really gone through a toxic phase or a lot of exposure to something negative. But you can play with that. I just want to give you the tools that you can then find that balance for yourself. Focus on what you eat and how to eat throughout the year. You are what you absorb, quite literally. Every cell in your body, every piece of connective tissue holding those cells together was either made of something that you ate or something that your mother ate. So every time we're looking at being healthy and stronger, and I don't like this wrinkle, what else can I take in that's going to restore my body and heal it and maximize it? So make vegetables the focus of meals. Use meats and dairy as high protein flavor sources. This is one of my baseline recommendations for all patients. I really do want to focus on a plant-based diet. You're getting a lot more antioxidants, fiber, benefit to the body. We do still need protein to balance it out, but I often look at sort of the Asian menu where we've got big stir fries with bits of meat throughout, rather than my own European heritage in English. We've got a big slab of meat and maybe a little bit of overcooked broccoli on the side. We just want to shift that ratio and get more vegetables in. So the ideal meal, did anyone see Harvard's Healthy Plate that came out a few months ago? Fascinating. They put together the perfect plate, the ideal meal, sort of like the rainbow or the pyramid of the days of yore, but with absolutely zero influence from lobbyists. So what they came up with was something that looks very similar to this, which I did first, but there's no dairy on it. We don't need it for life. It's not an essential component. It's flavor. Enjoy it as needed, but it's so interesting that when we take out the lobbying and the political movements, dairy's not on there. The focus is vegetables. Make vegetables, I'd say, about half of your plate. Good quality protein is a quarter, and whole grains as the other quarter. As you start eating, I'm filling up, I can't finish all of this. Finish your protein, finish your vegetables, let the grains go. We don't need them. The grains were more necessary when we settled into those agricultural societies and we were working from dawn till dusk, tilling the fields and that sort of physical activity. We needed that long, slow, sustained carbohydrate release. Now we're doing grains in a very refined, quick sugar fix mode. It's debilitating to our health. Optimizing digestive function. Eat mindfully. So many of my patients come in and they're like, okay, I'm pretty sure I have food allergies and I want to talk to you and find out what those are. I'm like, okay, well, we can do that and we will look to that. But first, rather than talking about what to eat, first I want to start with talking about how to eat. So much we're eating on the run, in front of televisions, in front of computers. Instead of sitting down, set the table, light a candle, really appreciate the food. Taste it, eat it slowly, be mindful of what you're taking in. And as a result, I think you'll find you'll start choosing better quality foods when you actually flavor it. There was a year and a half ago, I had an early morning flight. I was at the airport at 5:30 in the morning. didn't eat, it was too early, I couldn't deal it. But I'm like, okay, I've checked in, I should probably eat something, I'm gonna be 3 hours before I land where I need to be. What am I gonna have? Bless you. And it was, you know, breakfast sandwich A or breakfast sandwich B. They're both garbage, might as well go for the cheaper one. And I found myself eating really quickly. I'm like, no, Miranda, slow down. And as I slowed down, I'm like, I don't want to taste, like it was so unflavorful. The tomato had no flavor, the bread had no flavor. And so I think when we have bad quality foods, we're inclined to eat faster just to get it down, fill the void, you know, sate the belly, and you're good to go. Whereas if we eat really good quality food, slow down, taste it, enjoy your meal, it is going to become you to a certain extent. Support the secretion of stomach acid. So you want to look at bitter herbs. The bitter reflex on the tongue stimulates gastric juices all the way down. Sour drinks and foods, lemon juice, vinegars. We're going to talk about some fermented herbs, which are very cool. Include fermented foods in general. Fermented foods were our original digestive enzyme supplement. If we look at traditional meals, we've got, you know, the main plate of food of locally raised and picked and harvested and foraged stuff, with little bowls of pickled condiments around the edge. They supplied the digestive enzymes, they supplied probiotics, they helped us break down the food before we could get digestive enzymes in a capsule. So I really want to see this swing back to including more fermented foods in our diet. And more people are coming going, oh, I make my own sauerkraut, I make my own kimchi. It's fantastic, absolutely delighted. Chew thoroughly. There's an old Indian or Ayurvedic saying that we want to drink your food and chew your drink. So chew so well that what you take in becomes liquid. You're mixing it with the enzymes in your saliva. It's going to enhance the digestion. Then when it comes to drinking, don't just bring it down. You want to take it in, move it around, warm it up to room body temperature, swallow it down. So you want to sip gently and chew thoroughly. Digestive bitters. That flavor on the tongue, digestive bitters are not something you want to take in a capsule. We actually want to have that flavor on the tongue. We don't eat enough bitter foods in our modern day society. We tend to go for sweet, sour, salty, spicy. But that bitter flavor stimulates the nervous reflex all the way down our digestive tract. So we have that bitter taste on our tongue. We've got more hydrochloric acid being released by the stomach. And I'll talk about that more in a bit. We release more enzymes in the stomach and the pancreas. We release bile from the liver to digest the fat. So our whole ability to digest is improved just by including more bitter on our palate. Protein digestion. This is usually a long-ish bit. When we're talking about, we have more and more people who want to alkalinize my body, I'm too acidic, and they'll do a urine test or a saliva test and kind of get an idea that their pH is off, or just even looking at the list of symptoms and feeling they're too acidic. Look at their diet. When we want to alkalinize the body, there's a number of ways we can do it. We can look at dark green leafy vegetables, lots of minerals, they're going to help alkalinize the system. But really, I always want to look at where does this start? Why is this person too acidic in the first place? And oftentimes it's because we're eating too quickly on the run, we're not choosing high quality foods, and we're not producing enough stomach acid. We don't have enough hydrochloric acid. Naturally, it declines as we age, so it becomes more of an uphill battle as we move on in life, but that doesn't mean it becomes less important. In the ideal scenario, in a perfect situation, we have lots of stomach acid. We've smelled the food as it's cooking, we're hearing it sizzle, we've chopped it, we're integrated, we know the food is coming, that first stage of digestion happens in the brain, and it's sending the nervous signal down and the body knows it's coming. So we start releasing lots of hydrochloric acid, our stomach drops very, very low in pH, and then we take food into our system, and we're just going to focus on protein. We just take protein into our system, and that protein requires that stomach acid for the first stage of digestion. Protein is essentially, it's a chain of amino acids, like a string of pearls, that then gets sort of twisted in and on itself, and it becomes a globular structure. That enters into the acid bath, it breaks down those bonds, and it unravels back to its string of pearls. The enzymes can then come along, the enzymes from our stomach and from our pancreas, can then come along, chop those up, and we end up with our individual amino acids. Those are now free for absorption, the body takes them up. We use them for tissue repair, for neurotransmitter production, for whatever the body wants to do. It has the pieces it needs. Minerals are also locked into this wound up protein thing. As that starts to unravel, those minerals dissociate in the acid, they're now free for absorption. So we're getting better nutrient absorption out of our food by having good stomach acid. Because we're absorbing minerals and we're in a nice alkaline state, the bloodstream is in a happy pH. It's able to say, well, I can just store those minerals. I'm going to deposit them in bone and keep them for when I need them later. So the bone acts as a reservoir. Let's flip that around to the non-ideal scenario where we're not producing enough stomach acid because we just grabbed something really quickly through a drive-thru and we're speeding down the highway, or we're watching CSI or working in front of our computers, or whatever it may be. We're just naturally aging and not producing as much. We take in that piece of protein, it goes into our stomach, but there isn't enough acid there to cause that protein to unravel, so it stays in its globular form. That then doesn't get digested, so it passes through into the small intestines, and there's some bacteria that are in our system, some putrefying, so the rotting bacteria, will start breaking down that protein structure, just sort of chomping at it from the outside in, sort of breaking it down. But they're not breaking it down into amino acids, they're not breaking it down into useful functions or particles, they're breaking it down into toxic components, which are often acidic in nature. Those then get absorbed. The minerals are locked in the foods, we're not absorbing as many minerals, so we end up with a bloodstream that's becoming more acidic, not enough minerals to buffer it. So in order to buffer that pH, it starts to pull minerals from the bones. So we end up with increasing osteoporosis, increasing osteopenia, or it starts to stash those acids into soft tissue and we end up with inflammation, joint pain, a whole host of inflammatory conditions. So when we're talking about becoming more alkaline, the first step in my mind is to become more acidic in our stomachs. Increase that amount of stomach, more digestive bitters, and more fermented foods that already have that lower pH that help to support digestion by providing the acids that are going to break down the proteins and help you absorb your minerals. Does that make sense? Using acids to become more alkaline? Good. So, various products that we can use for that. There's a whole host of fermented products. I don't know if you guys got to try it when you came in. Kombucha, do I talk about this one by one? I do. We have a whole line of fermented herbs, and this line is growing. Essentially, we're just going back to old world wisdom, the historical ways of manipulating food to keep it available is, preserve it throughout the winters. So we could harvest a cabbage in the fall, and if we don't eat it right away, eventually it'll go green and moldy, and that food is no longer available to us. Or we shred it finely, pack it in with some salt, and let those bacteria that's part of that cabbage's biofilm start to break down the sugars and digest it, and eventually we end up with sauerkraut. This now has a much longer shelf life, and it's providing those acids that are going to help us digest our proteins. So if you think of, help us digest our proteins, we're getting B vitamins, all those probiotics, we're getting those benefits. So these products were really just going back to that old world historical ancestral heritage of preparing food, but bringing it into the modern day forefront. So kombucha, this is a fermented black tea. It starts with kefir grains that were found from the Caucasus Mountains in the middle of Eurasia. There are nomadic tribes there. They're shepherds. They had their animal skins that they would, fill with milk before they go over the hills and far away. And that would eventually ferment. It gets thick like a yogurt, but a little bit fizzy because there's a yeast component in there too, and that's a kefir, which you can buy in the dairy section. As those started to migrate farther afield, they would go over the hills, they would trade, move the kefir grains. As those migrated west into Europe, kefir sort of spread in popularity farther west. As they were traded east into Asia, then there's not a strong dairy component to the diet, so the people there started experimenting with, well, what else can we grow these kefir grains on? We know they're so good for us. And this was thousands of years ago, they found that sweetened black tea, when these kefir grains were introduced to it, produced a drink that they called the elixir of life. It's also been called the fountain of youth. It was this nourishing, energizing, vitalizing tonic that helped people with digestion, helped people's immune system, helped them feel great. And even though they didn't understand the world of microbes and what was going on there, it was just this regenerating tonic. So kombucha is this fermented black tea. We're getting very high levels of antioxidants. Same reason why we would drink black tea or green tea is get those antioxidants. And we're also getting that immune support because it's supplying live cultures of probiotic yeast and bacteria to the system, B vitamins, which all of our cells need in order to function properly, enzymes help break things down. We've got this ongoing effect. So much success with the kombucha that a company in Montreal has now started, or just outside of Montreal, has started fermenting other herbs as well. Again, kind of that old world wisdom. So they started fermenting holy basil. Holy basil is a herb that's used in Ayurvedic medicine. It's also known as Tulsi. Mental depression, clarity of thought, the feeling of cobwebs in the mind. You're overworked, or the menopausal symptoms, or whatever it be, you just can't think clearly. Holy basil is the herb to help dispel those cobwebs and help you function effectively again. Also has some immune support. It's used for colds and flus and as an antiviral tonic. Oregano, fantastic herb for supporting the immune system. It's a good expectorant, so anything good for coughs and moving things out of the lungs. It also has good antimicrobial properties. And so there's a big popularity hit for oil of oregano about 10, 15 years ago. And so it came onto the forefront, and now I think most people have oil of oregano at home. It is a fantastic medicine. I use it myself, but it's a strong medicine. You almost need to keep it in the mental category of a pharmaceutical antibiotic. It's strong, it kills good bacteria, bad bacteria. It's a powerful, bring it out when you need it, but don't use it every day as a preventative dose. A fermented oregano, by contrast, they start with oregano tea, or organic herb, add the organic sugar, introduce the kefir grains, and allow it to ferment. Some of those microbes, when they first get exposed to the carvacrol and the active ingredients in the oregano, might die off. Other ones, it's almost like antibiotic resistance. They're going to say, nah, I can handle this. And they're the ones that are going to proliferate and grow and take over. So we end up with a compound that's more antimicrobial than oil of oregano or straight oregano, but is also providing probiotic cultures as well. So it's a win-win. We've got a nice little chart somewhere that shows the antimicrobial effects and how it was stronger than oil of oregano, stronger than the carvacrol, the isolated ingredient, and the fermented is much more effective. Hi. It's much easier on the stomach. Yeah. It's also easier to get into kids, like to get oil of oregano into a child, like it's so strong. This one you can just make a little vinaigrette and they dip the vegetables in it. I'll throw it over salad. Same with the holy basil. Holy basil and the oregano I think are the most delicious. They're just kind of like a herb vinegar, but you're getting those medicinal effects of the herb as well. So fresh basil in the summer, throw on some olive oil, dollop with the holy basil herb, and then I just toss it all together. Passion flower, this is the herb for nervous system agitation. So whether it's pain or insomnia or anxiety, whatever has that nervous system kind of on edge, passion flower helps to cool it down. So you can use it for toothaches, headaches, menstrual cramps, use it for insomnia, anxiety, any sort of upset system. There's two new ones that have arrived, but they're so new that they're not here yet. The one's in echinacea, so we have fermented echinacea, and a fermented astragalus. So two more compounds to help support the immune system and restore strength. And really it's just another delivery vehicle. You can take echinacea as a tea, you can do it as a tincture, you can do it as a glycerite, you can do it as a capsule, you can do it as a fermented herb and get the benefits of the probiotics as well. So kind of mix and match, play around. But all of these, back. Okay, but with all of them you're getting the probiotic cultures, the enzymes, the B vitamins, and those organic acids that are going to drop the pH and help with digestion. So I like them as part of a daily routine. The general dose is 2 teaspoons twice a day. I say before your 2 big meals, usually breakfast and dinner are the most convenient. So I wake up, I look at my fridge, what do I have? Well, how do I feel today? I just spent 3 days talking and on an airplane and I'm feeling a little bit run down, then I'll have a swig of the oregano. I feel fine, I'll do the kombucha, a bit busy, I'll have the holy basil. You kind of play around, see where your needs are at. And then in the evening I'll have mine in a wine stem, and I'll just put a little bit of the kombucha or whatever herb, add some San Pellegrino, and then sip it while I'm chopping and making vegetables, and kind of nice ways to get it into your system. Other things to help decrease internal toxins, well, I'm going to help the body mobilize, and as it's taking those toxins from the cells, expelling them through the liver into the bile, into the small intestines, want to carry them out of the system. Dr. O'Here's probiotics has always been, it's my go-to for probiotics at this point. It's a living culture of bacteria. We've got 12 strains of bacteria that have grown up together in a broth of 92 fruits, vegetables, mushrooms, and seaweeds. So it's the closest to a historically, traditionally fermented food, really concentrated just in a capsule. They've never been dried, they've never been centrifuged. They're living, active microbes just ready to grow and proliferate. They're going to maintain that biofilms. They're part of our immune function. They're also part of our digestive function. And they help to regulate neurotransmitter production. So one of the major feedbacks that we get back from Dr. O'Here is it can help with sleep, it helps with mood, things that we wouldn't necessarily associate with a probiotic when we're thinking, no, it's for digestion, it's for stomach upset. We see better mood, we see more weight loss, all of these other testimonials that come and join the picture. Generally we want to support the systems of elimination, decreasing internal toxins. We want to get all of those systems working well so that we're not burdening one over the other. The liver's not pulling its weight and the kidneys have to work harder, the bowels are struggling. So Dr. O'Here's probiotics, that's what it looks like. For managing weight, as I mentioned before, detoxification and weight loss are pretty closely related. So especially when you get those people who are like, well, I've done everything, I'm down to 1,800 calories a day, I'm at the gym 5 times a week, I can't shed this last little bit. Want to look at their endocrine system, see what their thyroid's doing, what their adrenals are doing, but part of it might be they're just carrying around too many toxins. So starting that really gentle system of elimination and helping the body get rid of that toxic load, they often find that then their weight just naturally starts to come down to a more comfortable balancing point. Other points for managing weight, we want to keep blood sugar levels balanced throughout the day. So especially in today's society with these refined flours and carbohydrates and everything else, we see this really high sugar spike and then it drops, and you're telling your body that food is unreliable, that there's an inconsistent source of nutrition. So we hit that sugar low, we take in the next amount and realize, okay, I should probably hold on to some of this and keep it around for later. So we want to have our blood sugar nice and steady throughout the day, so balancing out fruits and vegetables with a good quality protein, a good quality fat, lots of fiber, fluids, keeping that all nice and level. Supporting liver function with bitter foods and herbs. Again, that's ultimately going to help with weight management just by allowing toxins to be disposed of in the bile and through the bowel. Ensure that bowels move regularly and comfortably. Other things for managing weight. When we take in something, ideally this nice, well-balanced, not a blood sugar spike meal, the body needs to store it. It has to do something with it. If you can deplete your sugar stores before you eat, then your body immediately has somewhere to pack it. So one little trick is to, before you eat, just do air squats. Just bend the knees, do it for about a minute. So you're draining your quadriceps, or really big muscles in the front of your legs. You're using up all of the sugar in there. Then when you eat your meal, your body starts processing, oh, here, I've got somewhere I can store it. So quick little thing that you can do at home or in the office or in a public bathroom. Final thoughts on cleansing. Cleansing is an innate human process. We just want to enhance it and maximize it. Rebuilding and nourishing the system is just as important as cleansing. The balance, the key is in the balance. So some people aren't inclined to do a cleanse on a regular basis and be really austere and I'm going to cut everything out and I'll take a lot of herbs and be really extreme. They can just cleanse day to day. Eat your dark and leafy vegetables, eat bitter foods, support your digestion, you're cleansing as you go, you're rebuilding as you go, and kind of doing this balance. Other people do prefer a bit more of a pendulum swing, so then you're going to push that digestion and be really focused on it for a couple of weeks and then back over to nourishing and rebuilding and restoring and replenishing the body now that it's shed what it doesn't want to hold on to. Immune strength and weight control are intimately linked with digestive function. But always I'm looking at digestion no matter what that patient is presenting with. There's one saying that my oncology practice say that we dig our own graves with our knives and forks. So we really want to choose food and maximize our absorption and our capacity to process it. Strengthening and tonifying your digestive system is the key to maintaining health, and this is particularly important during times of excess, whatever that time of excess may be, birthday parties, Christmases, whatever it may be, or just that lifestyle when you're living that world. Thank you for coming out. Do you have any questions? Hey?
Wine is fermented. Why are you against wine?
Why am I against wine?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not.
Oh, you're not?
Oh, no.
Okay, I thought
only during a cleanse.
Oh,
yeah.
Only during a cleanse.
And this unfortunate part, wine, beer, ales, those would generally be traditionally fermented foods. That batch of grape juice just kind of went fizzy and makes my head feel funny. But nowadays they're all pasteurized. So you're not getting the same microbial benefit from them. They're not raw, everything has to be flash pasteurized. So we're not getting the same benefits from them, then they're just for flavor and enjoyment and as part of that well-rounded meal. But no, I'm not against wine.
So you just have like one glass of wine?
Not enjoy it.
Okay.
With wine, generally I just try to minimize the damage. I try not to change people's lives too dramatically. You love having that glass of wine in the evening, I would say don't have it before your meal, have it with your meal. So instead of having that glass of wine on an empty stomach, which is just going to spike the blood sugar and then we're back on that roller coaster, wait a little bit, you've got the acne's coming in, you start eating, then you start sipping your wine. It's much easier for your body to keep that blood sugar steadier. So just little tweaks. Same with coffee. You go out for brunch in the morning, no, I don't want anything to drink right now. Once the meal arrives, now I'll have a cup of coffee. So you're not stimulating your system on an empty stomach. You're just working with and doing little subtle adjustments.
What about wine?
What about chocolate? Organic, fair trade, as dark as possible.
Okay.
But no, not a bad thing at all. Lots of antioxidants. Yeah, good compounds. Hello there. No, you. Yep, yogurt is a traditionally fermented food. The question is a substitute for yogurt if you can't handle dairy. There's more and more on the market. There's soy yogurts. I think I just saw an almond one. There's a coconut one. But if it's just you want something that's going to provide probiotics, then I would go for a raw sauerkraut or a raw pickle. They have some over by the deli. Fermented foods, miso, tamari, natto. There's options out there. But yeah, if you can't handle dairy, then yogurt's not for you. More questions? Hello?
Do you have any suggestions for somebody with one adrenal gland?
Aha!
Same or
Suggestions for someone with one adrenal gland. Whether they have one adrenal gland or, I do a lot of adrenal testing, and I do find some people who are in that nice, happy curve who want to have cortisol nice and high in the morning, it gets us out of bed, gives us energy, and then naturally fades throughout the day. I'm seeing a lot of people with either flatlined adrenal function or it spikes in the evening and they've got this rush and want to work with that. So whether they have one adrenal or two, I'd still want to work with that individual on a more personal basis. But keep the blood sugar steady, bedtime steady, wake up time steady. Adrenals love routine. So the more you can, okay, even if it's on a Sunday, I'm waking up at 7 a.m. because that's just when I wake up. You'll be amazed at how much you can get done when the rest of the world is asleep. More questions? No? Hello?
Is rosacea related to candida?
Not necessarily. It's usually, the question is rosacea related to candida? Candida might be a factor. It's one of the straws on that camel's back. But there's heritage, there's lifestyle, there's a lot of factors involved. So it wouldn't hurt to look at candida, but I wouldn't go straight to a yeast condition. It would be, again, looking at that individual and seeing what's going on. Yeah. Hi there.
Hi. Do you have any thoughts or suggestions on
Improving
improving your sleep pattern?
sleep pattern. Regular bedtime, regular wake-up time is steady. We want to have that routine. The room should be as dark as possible, or get a little sleeping mask. The room we'd also want to have cold. Think back 200 years, up until 200 years ago, our body temperature drops at night. It's still, the world around us drops at night. Everything gets very dark. When we sleep in these centrally heated houses, we're not getting that signal to our body that, okay, it's time to drip into sleep right now. So very cold, very dark bedroom. Cold is going to handle it. And then, yeah, I would want to find out whether it's trouble falling asleep, trouble staying asleep, and look more at the individual and what else may be going on there. But it's the basic, it's the sleep hygiene. Set that evening routine, no television before bedtime, particularly the more stimulating shows, no news at bedtime. Setting lighting cues about an hour ahead of time. So you can do a nice warm bath, and then when you go into the cold bedroom, you'll get that reflexive chill, which will help tell your body that it's time to sleep. Hi there.
Acid reflux.
Acid reflux. Are you on medication? Or is this for someone on medication? Ironically enough, this is generally a question of not enough stomach acid. When we have sufficient stomach acid being produced, we have sphincters on either end of our stomach that are letting food in and closing it off. When we have lots of stomach acid and this is a very low pH, the sphincter at the top closes and nothing can splash back up. When we're not producing enough stomach acid, that sphincter doesn't get the signal, it stays open, and that's when we start getting a lot of that reflux and the splashing back up. So I will test people's stomach acid. I've had no one yet come back with too much stomach acid. Almost everyone I test with acid reflux is not producing enough. So I'd say more fermented foods, acids right before the meal, and eating mindfully, slowing down all of that good lifestyle stuff to give your body the signal to shut that sphincter. Hi there. It's not, the question is eating before bed and the effects that has on glycemic patterns. It's not ideal, so I'm going to try to go where there's no feedback but still make eye contact. That being said, if people are waking up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning because they're hungry, like it's a growling stomach that gets them up, then I will have them do a snack at bed. Usually heavier on the protein, with a little bit of complex carbs to help get them through so they don't have hypoglycemia in the night. But for most people, no, I would eat earlier in the evening and then let your body find its balance. Give it time to restore. That's one of our times to cleanse and eliminate and break things down and get ready to go. We wake up in the morning, cortisol rises, we have a nice bowel movement, we're on with the day. We've just eliminated what our body cleaned house with throughout the night. Try to avoid it. Hi.
if you wake up during the night, which I frequently do,
Yeah.
probably to do with my age, about 4 in the morning, I always want to have something to eat because my stomach's telling me that.
Yeah.
What's the best thing? I always eat a banana. Is that okay? Or
I would go for something with protein. The question is, if you wake up in the night, 4 o'clock in the morning, and you're hungry, what would be the best thing to eat? I would choose something with protein, so you've got a nice, slow blood sugar rise. A banana, I mean, it's still a whole food, which is a good start. You're not having banana bread, which would be the worst choice. But it's tropical fruit, and it's going to be quite high in sugar, so you're going to get a bit more of a sugar rush, and then just then drops, and we're starting that cascade. So I would get something with protein, or an apple with some hazelnuts, or something that's going to be a little bit more balanced and sustained.
would nuts be good to eat?
Nuts would be good to eat. Yeah. Or banana with some almond butter on it, just trying to balance out when we have, okay, I've got carbohydrates in my hand, what else do I need? I need protein and I need fat. And is there fiber between the three? So we kind of, okay, so I'm going to have my celery and let's have some hummus. So I'm going to have, toast, what else can I put on it that's going to provide the protein and the fat? So you're constantly looking at each meal or snack and going, where are my vegetables, where's my protein, where's my fat content? And balancing it all out. Hi.
What about fruits in your little circle? You can say.
Yeah, I don't mention fruits. I go back to seasonal. We ate fruits in the summer and we ate them fresh. And we ate them in minimal quantities. There was less sweet fruit at that time. We had more tart apples and things. So I think fruits are a good treat. They're sort of nature's dessert, but I don't rely on them year round. And people are like, no, I just don't eat a lot of fruit. It's okay. Like, well, I love fruit. Okay, well now let's just balance it out with protein and fats and maintain that. But yeah, organic. I mean, you guys are in fruit country. I can't tell a bunch of other people about fruit when we have a store. So enjoy your fruit, but balance it. No need to add sugar to it. Balance it out with some protein and some fat.
We were making the smoothie in the morning with bacon, protein, and yogurt. Out of yogurt. What do you add in protein? Blueberries.
Yeah. So the question is, a morning smoothie with vegan protein, yogurt, and what about adding berries? Absolutely. Berries are, if we look at that sugar load of what's going to cause a blood sugar spike, berries give a lower rise, and we've got like apples and peaches, and then tropical fruits, your mangoes, your pineapples, they do the much higher spike. So nutrient for blood sugar rise, your berries are a good way to go.
But should you want to eliminate the banana because I was using the banana?
If you don't need the banana, then yeah, I'd let it go. There's also, it's a naturopath in Vancouver who, I need to relearn what he did, but he talks about the need for, or how the body changes when we're exposed to sunlight and we have more of a tan, and then we're more available, or we're more primed to digest sweet fruits. So you think of like people who live in the tropics, they're getting sun all the time, they're eating their sweet fruits, that's part of their heritage and their makeup, and in the colder winter months we don't have the tan, so we don't digest it as well. I should have mentioned that because I should refresh my own knowledge before I start explaining it, but it's an interesting theory. So I do a lot of, if I don't know the answer, I flash back 200 years and what would have made sense then for my climate, for where I'm at. We didn't have access to tropical fruits, so I think we can live without. And then we did have access to stone fruits and tree fruits, but in the summers, playing around.
Do you like organic apple cider vinegar? I like to have like a tablespoon a day.
Yeah, great. Organic apple cider vinegar, wonderful. If it's raw and unpasteurized, perfect. Still has the mother growing in it. The kombucha tastes like apple cider vinegar.
Yes.
And you're just going to get different nutrient profiles. You can sort of play around and experiment there. You had a question.
Tried the Good for Life diet.
Yeah?
Combined.
Food combining?
I keep going back and forth with it.
I'm not a big fan of food combining. No. Oh, again, historically, it doesn't make sense to me. That's over an hour, and I know there are more questions, so I will stay for as long as there are questions, but for those of you who don't want to stay, you don't have to hang out. So thank you for coming out. I see Karen in the wings ready to do a gift basket.
Oh, I didn't know.
Thank you.